Good evening, everyone. My name is Nomakwezi Beka, and welcome to the 10th European Film Festival in South Africa. Today, I'm so honored to be joined by Emmanuel Pavu, who made Mikado and is the director of Mikado. And we're going to lead straight into a Q&A. Thank you so much for joining us today, Emmanuel.
Thank you, and I'm very I'm extremely excited to be here, and I'm sorry for the poor signal, and I'm very remote country, very remote zone of our country. So yeah, we'll do our best.
We'll do our best indeed. Emmanuel is currently working on another project, which I'm very excited about. So we'll forgive the network. We'll
Yeah.
just thank you for making the time. I'm just going to go straight into it to make the most of our time. But I'd like to begin with the personal, your approach to the personal. I know that the film you made before also dealt with these interpersonal family relationships between father-daughter, I believe, and this film as well comes from that father-daughter perspective before it makes the social commentary and the political commentary, which I always think is an interesting approach, because it's like this microscope into how society and politics is a personal thing. And as a daughter of a loving father myself, who also can sometimes be protective, who used to also play this pick up sticks Mikado game at the dinner table with my father, it was such an interesting comparison to go, oh yeah, I grew up doing that. And as you grow older in a father-daughter relationship, in a family relationship, this careful act of balancing and dismantling relationships to rebuild and go, oh, hopefully this won't collapse on us. How do we treat it with care? If one person does something too wrong, how does that affect the way these sticks balance each other out? So interesting to see that likened in the way these relationships in the film are. So and transitioning through life, right? So I'm curious to know a bit more about your approach through the personal.
I'm thank you for the kind words, and I'm always thinking when something happens, even though it's good or bad, I'm always thinking, what was the starting point of that thing? What was the point zero of that thing? So I usually rewind my happenings. I usually rewind them, and I think we have a lot of signs from God in our lives, but we're just too blind or too implicated in what we do, so we're not seeing them. And I think if if you're going back in Mikado, if you're going back to point zero, if something was about to happen in another time or in another day, all of those things wouldn't have happened. If the red light at the end wasn't there, if the policeman wasn't there, if the ladies didn't cross the street, if he hadn't dropped his phone, if Christy wouldn't forgotten his keys, everything in our life, I think, our lives, I think there's a very big if something happened. So I think the trust is a very important key in this relationship. The parent and child relationship is, from my opinion, is the strongest relationship on earth. Parent child. The not trusting your child um, makes all those things happen, because he's the one that's asking for the phone. And it's not his concubine that is showing the pictures. She just said, "Oh, it's Magda here. Oh, how nice." But actually, the jest, the proper asking for the phone was from him. It was not, look, Magda is here. It was not like that. That not trusting your own child comes from the father, and that's again what started this whole thing. Because if it was another day, maybe the elevator would have worked. Maybe yeah. there's a big if in all of our lives. If that didn't happen, this wouldn't have happened. So
Mm.
yeah, that's the way I think of life.
Yeah, yeah, very much so. And again, that then continues into the broader commentary, because then the film then goes into making so much social commentary through these little moments. Um, which kind of leads me into my next question, because coming from a country, South Africa, where class difference is still such a huge thing, unfortunately. It's always this question of, if our leaders did this, if we behave differently towards each other, what would happen? What
Yeah.
would our space be, right? And I found it's always interesting to watch another country make a film about that, and see what are the similarities, because sometimes we think we're different and we're not.
No.
Um, and I think what stood out to me, of course, were the big moments with the threat that Christie makes and things like
Yeah.
that. So those big moments that are loud, but the small moments. And there's one in particular that stood out to me that might not even be important in the context of the film, but somehow it stuck with me. After Christy finds out and is in the car talking to the doctor, and finds out that the nurse is the mother of this
Yeah.
partner, and dealing with his own guilt, and possibly going into talks about the money, huge amounts of money soon. And then there's this person who seems to be a beggar, who knocks on his window, and he barely flinches, and the beggar
Yeah.
leaves, because it doesn't affect me. This person who I've affected with my power, with exerting my power and stuff like that, that's a problem. I now feel bad about that, because that affects me. But this beggar, who's probably in a similar position, doesn't affect me. So we can ignore them. I can't even spare a coin for them, but I can give these huge amounts to make myself feel better, and be safe, and not. And that moment to me was so interesting. So it's those nuances, if you can maybe.
It is, yeah, it is, because usually God is sending, in my opinion, God is sending us people so to put us on different tries, to try our mercy, to make to put on the light upon ourselves. It's
Mm,
a different approach that I see a lot of things happening in my life, and I'm always wondering, because God, in my opinion, God didn't ask us to be smart, that God didn't ask from us to be wise. God is asking from us to be good, and to
mm,
be empathic, and
mm,
to be good with your own kind. So there's a lot of approach in the aesthetics as well, in the aesthetics of the film, because the whole film is shot by from the dead mother's POV.
mm,
That's why the camera in the car sits only with Christy in front with the others, because it's the relationship allows the mother to stay in front. With the others, the camera stays in the back
yeah.
in the different cars. That's why it's always searching the camera, the aesthetics of the film. The camera is always searching for things left and right. Is here because in our lives we first hear things. If a tire explodes next to you, first you hear the noise and then you turn your head to see.
Mm,
So that's an aesthetic approach that I thought, if I tell a story, whom I want to this story to be told,
mm,
from whose point of view, um,
yes.
from who is telling us this story, who is
Mm.
the narrator of this story. So I thought a lot about this.
That's so interesting. Now that you mentioned that, I go, oh, yes, of course. It's because it's coming from somebody's perspective. And you can see that the whole time, when, especially with the style of filming and the handheld parts and things like that, you can see that somebody's watching. But it's curious
Yeah.
to, yeah, put that. I think then that's perfect at time means that I can only ask one more question. But I think I'm curious, now that we've gone into that, about the making of the film, because I know you also come from an acting world as well. I'm
Yeah.
curious to know about you, how that did that gift you anything while you were making, to know what it's like to be in front of the camera as well as behind. What did that influence the creative process with the actors, perhaps, and also across generations, because there were different ages and generations and ways of viewing these topics. I'm just the
Most
making, I
of
think.
the young ones, two of the actors, Julian and Mihai, were my students at the university. I'm an acting teacher at the only film acting master degree in Romania.
Mm,
So both of them were my students, and Julian's mother was my teacher in university.
mm,
So
mm,
yeah, coming from acting, I put a lot of work into acting. I do a lot of takes, like over 30 takes.
mm,
Each scene, each sequence, I shoot a lot, like
mm,
really a lot. At 20, 25, 30, 35 takes to each shot. So I put I concentrate, I focus on acting so much
mm,
because I think the people at home or people in the cinema theater, they see the actors, they don't observe the aesthetics, they don't observe the light, they don't observe um, only trained eyes like you was go through different levels, but a basic viewer will only see the actors and
mm.
will only see the story and the actors. So yeah, I focus a lot on on the acting side.
Very interesting. Thank you so much for your time
Thank
and
you,
sharing these little
thank
nuggets of
you,
beauty. I
thank
wish
you,
the
thank you.
conversation could be longer, but I look forward to hearing more about the next project. Are we allowed to
Yeah,
know a bit about that before I say goodbye?
yeah, I did. Yeah, I did an interview for Variety, and it's called Three Miles to the End of the World, and
Mhm,
it ends up the trilogy with a parent-child thing.
mhm,
So,
mhm,
but now it's a complete family. So I started with a father and daughter, but not his own blood. So with an adopted daughter,
mhm,
different families. We continued with Mikado with the father and daughter and no mother. And right
mm.
now, the third one will be a complete family.
Beautiful. I'm so interested to find
Yeah,
out more and to see it in the
I,
coming
I,
years.
I'm so interested
I'm
too,
so
just because we're right in the middle of the shooting. So I hope
yeah,
in 2 weeks we're gonna end up the shooting good, and then
yeah.
we'll see.
I wish you all the best for that
Thank you so
process and
much.
the people you're
Thank
working
you.
with. Thank you so much for this
Thank you so much.
conversation and your
Thank you so
time.
much.
And
Thank
I
you.
hope we link up
Thank
again in future.
Yes, yes, yes.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you everyone for joining us. That was Emmanuel Parvu for Mikado.